Right. So Saram everyone. I see some sleepy faces. Don't sleep, that's my advice. Okay, so thank you Girish, it was beautiful. Transported me back. So let's start with the bhajan just to wake everybody up. So the tabla player, can you hurry up? Chop chop. Okay. Jaya Jaga Janani Ma So I was thinking what I'm going to speak about, and I thought maybe I should just summarize what I'm going to talk about right off the bat. And so I'm going to talk about the lessons that I learned being associated with Swami. So 3 main lessons come to mind. One is for us to be good at anything, whether it be spirituality or whether it be worldly pursuits. The basic thing that we need to do is we have to work hard. We have to work extremely hard. As hard as we can, till you know that you cannot do anymore. Okay, that's something I learned from Swami, and I'm really grateful to him for that. Second is, once you've done that hard work, you should let things go. If it doesn't work out the way you thought it was supposed to, don't hold on to it. Just enjoy the process of working and then keep moving on. Things will work out as they should. Okay? And finally, to have a relationship with God, you have to choose a sadhana, some sadhana, whether it be music, whether it be meditation, whether it be working, doing service, but that has to be done. You have to choose your path. It has to come from you, and it has to be something that you enjoy. We are all very different people, and therefore it is important for us to see different things and experience different things and then choose what is correct. So I hold on to these things quite dearly, and this is something that has helped me in my life. And so I'll share some experiences which will hopefully help you understand where I'm coming from. I can tell you that I was not at all interested in going to Swami's school. my background is my dad was in the Indian Army. So he was in all various places in India, and we grew up mainly in Kashmir and in Delhi and most of the North India. We've pretty much seen every place. And so we would move every 2 years, and the only place that I've stayed longer than 2 years is Puttaparthi, which is, I stayed for 7+ years there. So our life was a very different kind of life. In that it was, you had a lot of comfort and a lot of luxury. So why do I say that? I say that because there were always people at home, who were helping out. So there'll be someone cooking food for you. There'll be someone who's ironing your clothes. There'll be someone who's driving you to school. I used to get hot lunch every day at school delivered by somebody. Right? My dad's vehicle would come in and we would get hot lunch. And so it was a very spoilt kind of lifestyle that we led. And it was at that point that my dad, who's a very spiritual man, he had long associations with the Divine Life Society, Yogananda, and he used to do meditation and all, and he's still very much into that. And he said, and he thought, that his kids are getting really spoiled, and they are getting all of this luxury handed over to them, and they're not going to learn anything, so therefore he needs to do something. So he prayed to Swami. The way he decided to do this was, he thought he'll go to Prashant Nilayam for doing seva. And that's what he liked, he wanted to do seva. So he would do seva, and then let's see what Swami has to say. So he did seva, and because he was from the army, he was a colonel in the army. So people thought, oh, army, security, right? Bang. So they put him for security at the Ganesh gate. They put him for security at the institute and the school. And so he would, move from place to place. And then he would sit at night in the mandir just to make sure everything is fine. So he saw the ashram from day to night. He saw a lot of the goings on in the ashram quite closely. On one such occasion, he got to spend 7 days in front of the Swami's student hostel. And the first thing that appealed to him was, these boys are standing quietly, and they're going in lines from the institute hostel to mandir. This was in the late 80s. And he thought, wow, that's great. My kids would never do that. Right? They would never stand in a line. They're not going to walk quietly. So this place is great. I need to send my kids here. Right? And first, my parents would attend bhajan, but I would say no. I didn't want to go because I wanted to play sports. That was my thing. My goal was to come to the United States on a scholarship, on a sports scholarship. And specifically, I wanted to come here for a squash scholarship, because I grew up playing squash, and I was playing at the national level in India. And all my peers would play squash. They would come, they would get recruited by Yale and Harvard and Princeton, and you get your undergrad education here fully paid for. So that was my goal. So I had no time for bhajan and all of this. And so my dad, because he was a disciplinarian, he would say, you guys are not going to go out of home after 8 o'clock, and you're going to come and sit and do bhajan. So every day, starting from my 9th grade, we would do bhajan at night at home. And I didn't like it. But my mom would somehow convince us, you sing one bhajan just to make him happy, it'll be all good. So the bhajan I used to sing was this. Manas bhajare guru charanam dustara bhava sagar taranam. But this is not how I used to sing it. I used to sing Manas bhajare. I used to look at my dad, my mom, guru charanam. It's completely dead. There was no feeling, none of that, right? So for 1.5 years I would do that. And I would get away. My dad would be like, yeah, whatever, he's fine. At least they're sitting here. So then he thought, okay, the time has come for us to actually apply to Swami's school. So he said, I'm going to go to Swami and I'm going to ask him. So he again showed up for seva. This was again in 91, I think. And then he did a 20-day seva there. And at the end of it, some of you who are familiar with Prashant Nilayam, the way this works is that all the sevadals sit together, and then Swami comes and blesses them, and you get an opportunity to give him a letter. Right? That was how it would work. So Swami didn't, they sat, but he didn't take that letter. And my dad was he was not too happy about it. So he was like, okay Swami, I'm going to give you one more shot. I'll sit for darshan tomorrow morning before I leave. And so he wrote a letter. He said, Swami, I really need you to get my kids into the school because they are going crazy at home. So you need to do something here. So he wrote that letter and he was holding it. And morning Swami came in darshan. This was the old mandir, right, where there was the sand and it was not the nice Kulwant hall that we see. It was a little more, a little different back then. So they were all sitting in the sand, and then Swami came by, he finished his interview, he went into the interview, he finished the darshan, he went into the interview room, didn't take the letter from my dad. Now, typically, Swami never comes out of the interview. He will finish the interview and then he'll talk to somebody, and then he'll interact with the students perhaps, or some such people. But on that particular day, the moment he finished the interview, he came directly to my dad, he took the letter and he went back. And so he was really very gung-ho, and he came back and he was like, yay, you guys need to apply and you need to go to Swami's school. So I was like, not really, I didn't want to tell him that, but I ended up applying, and we got called for the interview, and we had a teacher by name Mr. Habu, who used to be the principal in the high school back then. And so we had an interview then. And so he called us in and he said, so do you know about Swami? He said, yes, I go to bhajan. And then, can you sing a bhajan for me? So I sang Manas Bhajre Guru Charna, right? It's like really in that dead fashion. So he said, wow, you sing well. So I said, Abu sir, sure. Okay. And then I found myself in the school. And I say I found myself in the school because as you can make out, I was not, that big a fan of Guru. Because my idea was that here are all these kids who don't play sport, they are just sitting and doing bhajan, and I'm coming from a very different background, right? And what do these guys do? They seem very strange. So then one of my father's friend's sons were there, and he said, yeah, let me just take you to the playground. So I saw some of these kids playing there, and I saw them playing basketball, and I saw them playing cricket. They were incredibly good, really good. Okay, one guy could even dunk. It's like, wow, I'm going to fit in, right? These guys are good. They love sports, so I'm going to be fine. We'll figure out the Swami situation later. So I was like, all right, we'll go. And then I found myself in the school. It was a big culture shock for me. Just because, it's a different world. Everybody's a devotee. They know all this thing about Swami's history. And, for me, all of this was just completely alien. And, but the one thing that really appealed to me was the bhajan. I sat in the bhajan, I think after 4 or 5 days of joining, and I heard this bhajan and I started crying. And the bhajan was this. Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Govinda Hare, Sai Nityananda, Brahmananda, Jaya Gopal Hare, Arunachala Shiva, Trishuladhari Shiva, Hari Narayana, Sai Narayana. So I heard this bhajan and I was crying. And I had never cried because I thought crying was like for girls. I'm sorry, I'm offending a lot of people here, but that's exactly where I'm coming from. And bhajan is for girls, singing is for girls, boys do sport, they get hurt. And so that was a phenomenal moment, in at least I still remember it to this day. And so I thought, wow, this is just an amazing feeling. And bhajan was so amazing. So at that point I thought, I need to learn how to sing, or I need to learn how to be close to these boys who are singing. They need to, this is amazing. This is probably what it means to be close to God. So that's where my journey started, with bhajan and with Swami. My association with Swami was mainly through bhajan. A little bit of, and I'll tell you a little more about, how I got into singing in a little bit. But a little bit about my dad and my parents and my family. My great-grandfather, he had gone to Swami in the 50s. And my parents are originally from Andhra, but I didn't grow up in Andhra Pradesh at all. I grew up in the north of India. But my great-grandfather was a Brahmo Samaji, so he didn't believe in God. Okay, but his nephew was Swami was performing his marriage. And so this was way back when there was nothing in Puduvarthi, just a bunch of trees, Swami's mandir. And so to this day, we have pictures of that event. And so my great-grandfather was there. And what my family members still talk about today is the respect that Swami showed to this old man. Okay? He was by then going blind. And Swami was performing the marriage in the interview room. And at every step, like he was doing the wedding, he would ask him, so is it okay? Are you okay? And so that stayed with our family, that he's a special person, and it was a great experience. But none of my family members actually got into the Sai movement that much. What is interesting is my aunt, she's from a town called Anaparthi, which is near Rajahmundry, and my Swami used to stay in their house. Whenever he used to visit that area, he used to live there. So our family has had a lot of association with Swami, but then we were never much into Swami. It was only when my dad, took an active interest that we got into Swami. So it was because of my dad's interest. My mom was a committed atheist till very late. She didn't believe in God, and even when after my dad and her got married, she was not very impressed by all of these things that he would do. So we never grew up with much, all of, no ritual, nothing. Diwali for us was a bunch of sweets, and that's it. And so it was from that, that background that you're being pushed into Swami's school, right? So it's a very different kind of background. And so it was not easy. Okay. So, coming back to Swami. So the thing I realized was I need to get into this bhajan group somehow. I don't know how to sing. In fact, I think singing is for girls, and I need to somehow learn how to sing. So I started thinking, what am I supposed to do? So I went to my teacher. It was my physics teacher. His name is Mr. Shailesh. So I said, Shailesh sir, I want to sing. So he said, sure, yeah, why don't you sing? So he made me sing a few lines. I said, yeah, you sing well. You should ask Swami how to sing, whether you can sing in mandir. So I thought, wow, that's going to be a good opportunity. I'll get the permission to sing from Swami, and I'll get the opportunity to sing next to him, but I don't have to sing, right? I can sing maybe once every few months, and I'm good. So I thought, wow, that's not a bad plan. You get to be in front of Swami, but you don't have to do anything also. So the way it works in Prashant Nilayam is, you sit in the darshan line, you get up, Swami, and you say, Swami, I want to sing. And then Swami has to say, sure, sing, right? But there has to be a witness. Some boy or some teacher has to say, wow, okay, so this boy, yes, indeed, he did ask Swami, and therefore he can sing. So I had tried this for a good 7-8 months. This was in my 12th grade. And then it didn't happen. In 1 year, we were in our first year undergrad, and we stayed back. We didn't go home, which again I found very strange. Here I am. I didn't want to go home. After 2 years spending time there, I didn't want to go home. My parents found that extremely strange. So in that particular year, there were only a few of us, 20 of us in the hostel. Everybody had gone home. So Swami called us, 4 of us, for an interview. Because I guess we were just sitting there playing cricket, just enjoying ourselves. So he wanted to check on us, what we were doing. So So the way the typical interview would start is you would be sitting there, you would sit around him, there would be a teacher, and there was that teacher with us, the music teacher was himself there. And in that particular interview, he said, okay, how are you doing? And he asked everybody. And then I picked up my courage and I spoke to him in Telugu. Okay? My Telugu is not very strong. So there was only two people that I would speak Telugu with in Puttaparthi. One was the Dhobi, okay? Because I had to communicate with him in Telugu. Everybody else you can kind of speak with in English. But then with Swami, for some reason I had this desire to speak in Telugu. So I would ask Swami, and I asked him in Telugu. And he patted me on my cheek and he said, very happy, sure, sing. So really happy, right? And so I was on cloud 9. Come out of the interview room, and a feeling of dread sets in. And I was like, man, I don't even know how to sing. Why did I ask him to sing? This is like a very big leap. This is a leap of faith, not only in Swami, but in yourself. And so from there on, it was a very hard